Değerli katılımcılar,
Ladies and gentlemen,
8 dakika kadar geç başladık bugün.
firstly, I'd like to apologize for a delay of 7 or 8 minutes. Would like to thank all of you for keeping to stay with us. Welcome to the virtual workshop that is being organized with the blockchain community and universities, sponsored by EBRD, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Treasury and Finance jointly. As you know, this is the 6th of the series of meetings we're holding for the design of end-to-end export process via blockchain technology project. We will be starting, as always, with opening remarks, and then we'll be continuing with the blockchain community and universities. In this workshop, we will be hosting academia and the civilian society representatives with their exercise of opinion on the outputs of the blockchain technology. The panel is to be moderated by Mr. Levent Erden, who needs no introduction at all. Firstly, I'd like to give the floor to Deputy President of Turkey of EBRD, Mr. Mehmet Üvez, for the opening remark. Thank you very much, Mr. Zaman, for the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, I'd like to thank all of you for your participation on behalf of the EBRD. As indicated with the Ministry of Trade and the Ministry of Treasury and Finance, we've been running the project since last December. As you know, this is a technical cooperation project, and in today's occasion, we will be hosting the blockchain community and university representatives. Actually, it's an honor for us to be a member, a participant in this pioneering project. Without further ado, I would like to give you some brief information traditionally about EBRD. EBRD actually started its activities to support sustainable economic development in 1991. Currently active in 31 countries, it's an international finance and development institution. We do aim to contribute to economic development, also by way of green economy, integration, inclusion, well-governance, and we aim at contributing to policy cooperations with the private and public sectors as all around the world. EBRD has also witnessed an impact of the pandemic in all countries. Therefore, we've made some prioritization of the actions to be taken to overcome the challenges. Digital transformation, new generation technologies are contributed by the bank, and the global strategies for the next period are also based on this understanding. Also, as adopted in 2021, digital approach aims at supporting digital transformation in all countries of its action, accelerating the activities in this respect. Actually, we aim at contributing to the digital transformation of these countries and supporting the fair transformation in this respect. Also, green and inclusion will be the pioneers, the priorities of these pillars. Within this framework, EBRD aims at also developing legal and regulatory infrastructure with political and technical support, infrastructure investment, digital transformation of SMEs, and entrepreneurship in these areas. These will be our points of focus. With a fair and inclusive way of digital transformation, we aim at also supporting disadvantaged groups, mainly women, and supporting their involvement in economy. These will be priorities as in all projects of the bank. So briefly, I'd like to touch upon our activities in Turkey. EBRD started its activities in Turkey in 2009. In 13 years, almost 400 projects with 14 billion euros of an investment made in Turkey. Turkey. Actually, Turkey remains as the largest country of action of EBRD currently. Between 2019 and 23, national strategy includes the development of capital and money markets, supporting green economies, economic inclusion, and development of social gender equality. Therefore, we are continuing our investment activities in this respect as well. Digital transformation has been accelerated recently. Economic recovery and sustainable economic development have been priorities, both in public policies and plans, as in many fields, rather than traditional methods. Digital transformation has replaced many ways of doing business in our economic activities as well. So the blockchain technology is one of these leading technologies that we are supporting. In the public, its use in different sectors is being supported by many actors, and its use in foreign trade is going to be a priority in the agendas of both national and international agencies. With the use of blockchain technology, cost and time barriers will be overcome, contributing to a new trade volume of almost $1 billion. Together with the Ministry of Trade, we've developed this project to support blockchain technology in terms of time and cost effectiveness, facilitation of trade, and boosting efficiency and social benefits to all stakeholders. So in the coming period, we are aiming at prioritizing the steps to be taken in this direction. Without further ado, I'd like to conclude by saying that both in terms of regulatory framework, legislation, and governance, the project will be making some suggestions in terms of a multi-tier perspective. In this process, it's important for us to be in collaboration with you, our distinguished stakeholders. Taking this opportunity, I'd like to thank mainly Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Treasury and Finance, and all our stakeholders, all the participants, institutions, and experts having attended virtual workshops. And hopefully, we will be collaborating with you in the next phases of the project. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Üvez. And now I would like to invite from the Ministry of Trade, e-export, new generation technologies department head, Mr. Hasan Önal. Hello. Firstly, I would like to welcome all the audience and would like to thank them for their participation. It's an honor and privilege for me to be with you in the occasion of this meeting. I also would like to thank the participants of the panel as well. Now, there is a legendary group of people who will be attending the panel. As you know, Mr. Erden, the founder of Next Academy and Bilgi University academician, will be moderating the session. Again, from Bilgen, from the Turkish Scientific and Technological Research Council, Mr. Uzun will be with us. From the Istanbul Bilgi Universities, Dr. Çağla will be with us. And also we have Mr. Mustafa with us as the co-founder and CEO of the iIncredible company. And Mrs. Özalp, as usual, will be introducing the developments of the project. And rather than speaking on behalf of the ministry, I will leave it to Mügüsüm, who will be updating us about the progress of the project. The only point I'd like to say is that actually our department has the longest name in the Ministry of Trade. E-trade, new generation technologies are all covered by our title, but this is really important, indicating how the ministry attributes attention to the use of new generation technologies, blockchain included. Blockchain and its use in foreign trade transactions are really standing as a priority for the ministry. Hopefully, this will be set up in a way that will be the foundation of the actions of the ministry. Without further ado, I'd like to leave the floor to Professor Levent Erden. Would like to thank you all for your attention.
Böylece bana söyleyecek pek bir söz kalmıyor.
Actually, nothing much left from my side, and I would like to give the floor to Levent Erden, who will be actually moderating the session. Yes, please.
Açalım.
Ben kapatmadığım için merkezi olarak zannettim. Şu anda duyulabiliyor muyum?
Hope everyone can hear me. Thank you very much, Tayfun. Blockchain is quite interesting. It's been in our lives in the last decade, but no one actually says anything about it. And I found the easiest way to tell. After the age 11, as you all know, only in here, you know what notary public are doing. For example, if you make that stamping sign, everyone starting with the age 11 understands what a notary public is. I think the best way to tell Turkish people what blockchain is to make an analogy with a notary public. So, but we'll see what's going to happen next. So, Ümmü Gülsüm, shall we start with you? Why the minister is a part of this, at which point we are, what is going to happen, and what happened so far, and then I will give the floor to the other panelists. Yes, please. Thank you very much, Mr. Erden. Well, as you know, especially for those who have been joining us from the very beginning, I know we have such guests, especially we have some guests that join us with phase 2, as I know it pretty well. Maybe just I would like to start my talk with how we started. Now, you know, the project, it actually has 2 phases, and now we're at the second phase. The first phase in December 6, 2021 at Ankara, at the office of the Ministry of, we actually started with a kickoff. And in March 8, we had the actual kickoff, and then we made public disclosure about the project, what we have done, especially at the first phase starting with December the 6th. There are conventional customs procedures, and especially in Turkish borders, all the documents, all the processes, we considered them and we turned them into a digital process. And with the blockchain technology, we reinvented the process. What we have done is actually, by using the blockchain infrastructure, also by using the merits of the digital transformation, we have redesigned the export processes. In July 28 in Ankara, we had the closure meeting. And in July 28, during the closing meeting, we just discussed what findings we had, the outcomes, the gains that we have out of the blockchain. We also shared it with the public. Paper-free commerce, reducing the cost, shortening the processes. So I believe we actually have a lot of gain, and we shared it. After closure of the first phase, we started the second phase. This time, not the conventional customs procedures, but the simplified ones, especially e-trade and e-customs declaration. What we did, the second phases, we already have a simplified customs procedure that is actually to export by using the blockchain. We redesigned it and tried to understand what advantages we will have, what gains we will have, and what outcomes we will reach. That's what we have been working on. We're about to finish with the design and also testing of the procedures. And then looking at the deliverables, we will compare it to phase 1, and I can share the results now. Paper-free commerce is possible. And this is also the case for the second phase, just like the first phase. Why it is important? It's actually phase 1, phase 2, a simplified process. And in the conventional, for example, way, and put it aside, but with the transformed, we know that we can succeed in doing it. But of course, we have to share it with all our stakeholders. And I hope that the first week of December, we will have a closing meeting, and we again will make a physical event, and we'll be sharing the results with the public. That's all I can say about the project so far in a nutshell. Perfect, good work. So what is going to, how we will end up, I understand, we can actually make an assumption about this, but it is for sure that it will actually more good. Now let's get into the details. Sadullah, I would like to start with you first.
Blockchain diye çok konuşuyoruz da.
We are saying blockchain and blockchain all the time, but Ümmü Gülsüm also told us we have phases of the project and it will be over by the end of the project. Is it limited to this? But where do you think blockchain will go to? What contribution it will have? Where will you position the state? Because together with Çağla, I will ask you the same questions, always with the cryptocurrency that we hear about the blockchain, but what is it good for? I mean, what the system is there an ecosystem for this, or is it the system itself? Actually, a great question, quite a comprehensive. Actually, you explained everything with one word only, not republic. That's right. I think we're mistaken about the ecosystem. Maybe it's a self-criticism. We're technical people. While we're telling people about blockchain in the very initial years, we actually focused a lot about the technology and about the problem and too many technical terms that we said. Today, for example, if you ask anyone, what is TV? What is internet? For example, are we just going to start speaking about the transistor, or are we just going to speak about the transmission, just to describe what a vehicle is? I think we focused a lot on blockchain. Therefore, for a long period of time, people had difficulty in understanding what blockchain is, and we lacked good practices at that time. Therefore, started to make a comparison with the cryptocurrency, which is pretty normal. In the with blockchain, there are three phases discussed a lot in the academic literature. The first phase is digital money. With the Nakasho's article, there's the Bitcoin article, as you all know. In that article, even there is no term used blockchain, but the technology discussed there was blockchain. That was the first phase, digital currency, digital money. Then move to the second phase, that is Ethereum, smart contracts, and how, for example, like the blockchain is going to be used like a worldwide computer. It provided us that. And now we move to the third phase. The third phase is digital society. This phase is especially metaverse and others. It's actually an initiative that is much more reflecting the real life. Where the state is at TÜBİTAK, we at the Turkish Scientific Council, we had a center, a lab. So it's raise awareness about it, and second time to raise human resources for this. And for the critical blockchain works to be performed in the country, we started to establish different platforms. And there is actually a sandbox, I can say. Especially the developers can experience different blockchain technologies there, that they can, for example, test the systems that they have. We created such a platform. That was the first thing that we did. And then we organized 2 summits. In the initial years, we didn't do any such summits. And now there are too many summits, which we're so happy about. And especially, we actually had so many nice events that kicked off the process, but now we are working on real life scenarios. Of course, if time allows, we can actually provide several examples, but at least for this round, I can say the blockchain, there is again central digital, a central bank, central bank's digital Turkish lira project, which is so important. There's a project that we work, blockchain-based analysis project that we have, on-chain analysis work that we are on. In general, I can say with regard the blockchain research lab is now on the practical side and working on the real life scenarios, I can say.
Kolay gelsin diyelim çünkü
good work. You also are touching upon the third phase. Whether we move to the third phase and so on, it's another point of discussion, I should say, because there's so much fun. Once you said metaverse, for example, metaverse is actually searched in the Turkish engines, the most. For example, we changed the company's name Meta, and it's like there's like a metaverse already existing, and we're trying to find a gate to get into this. The technology or the people who are dealing with the philosophy of this, what is being discussed a lot about blockchain, metaverse, all these terms, people are giving different names and different definitions in each and every sentence. So I'll move to Çağla. Now, at one side, we're saying blockchain. On the other side, the game is changing. I'm on the side that hates the term digital. For me, digital is one and all. Either this or that, just like in the social media. There is nothing in the middle, I can say. So, digitalization, therefore, is something like one and all. It is like taking a great risk. So I'm avoiding using the term digital, but I like the term interactive. So it is not only the financial technology, and especially as Sadullah stated, we're just going elsewhere. It is like a digital wallet that we are. What I mean by digital wallet is actually a big deal, because I know what is inside, but no one can see it. There's not only a single wallet. You will have different wallets at each and every different platform, but I can fit in everything. By saying NFT, it is actually, there are some toys only dedicated to monkeys, but this is not the case. NFT will go elsewhere. So I think blockchain, especially what it will contribute to us. What are the myths and what are the facts?
Teşekkür ederim hocam. Çok güzel.
Thank you, Professor. Great talk. But first, I will start with thanks for the invitation. From the very beginning of the project, I've been in this process, and I'm so enthusiastic about this project and totally believe in this. Therefore, I'm really so happy to be here. So thank you very much for inviting me. So, blockchain that we have decided to speak about, but it is a technology that we have not launched yet. Where we are, where we're going, I think we also should look at where we have come from. I think 100% I agree that the science of engineering or the infrastructure of this technology, of course, we have to understand this, what type of technology it is, where it starts from, and so on. I mean, before starting with some super terms, I guess we first should better understand what this technology actually is, so we can understand where we can position cryptocurrency, at which point we are, and how we can proceed with the technology. Maybe taking this occasion, I would like to say why the blockchain technology is capable of so many things, and we put so much credit on the blockchain technology for the future. These are not new terms, but on the top of the engineering, there's also the social sciences approach, and social sciences theories that you can integrate into it. Before 1990s, there are two approaches. Maybe this is how I'm doing. It makes my job easier. Now, social scientists would know it very well. There is actually the power and knowledge theory, knowledge and power, maybe not two different things. During those times, it was understood that power and knowledge is the same. For example, this is how you can understand the issues. So, IT, information technology, started at that time. Whoever owns the data, that person can be a power authority. I mean, not a candidate, actually, just like the cloud service today, for example, technology company that we follow in the social media. The second approach is knowledge or information is power. The second thing is data from the engineering side, computer sciences. Again, in psychosocial sciences, we worked on at that time. And at that time, they were studying how data is valuable, how much data is valuable, and how it is difficult to transform the data. The cryptography science worked hard on this, especially they put emphasis on the security side of it. But now this time we have from the closed servers and the information technology, from the data that we actually generate, other people started to make money out of it. So if you combine it in the scattered structure that we have in today, whoever can manage the information Then there is actually technology that allows not a single person to be holding the power. Therefore, we have, information that we have in hand, we generate, and the more money that we make from the data that we generate, that's how we will be powerful about this technology. Think about it, in the smartphone of a person, I have over 40 applications, but at least in average over 10 applications. Think about it, for example, how is it possible that you, for example, give the information that you generate with your phone to a power center? Or how many of us can possibly make money out of the information that we generate through our smartphones? This is an indication. Consider the private sector, the public sector, the process of the academia. Even the information that I am providing from this platform, therefore, in the systems that manage technological information, if, for example, we are sure about this data, that's where we are about the blockchain. But where we will go, the time that I transform into NFT myself, with all the data that I own, will be in a single NFT. And once someone touches upon it, they will let me know. If I can manage such a system, then I will have my identity, they will understand that we brought the blockchain technology to a great level. But as you all know, this is the blockchain technology and the export process, end-to-end export process, this project that we have, really is an indication how advanced we are in the blockchain technology, and I hope that this been answered to your question.
Olmaz mıyız? Şimdi
Well, thank you for the contribution. It's all wonderful, but what Mustafa has to say also matters. Where does the private sector stand in all of this? Because listening to Dr. Çağla, there was one sentence that caught my attention. The public, state, government, private, it's okay, but I understand that there is actually the system where no one owns the power. So the private sector, the public, international agencies or others, they will be in equal balance in terms of the distribution of power in the system. So what do you think will be the position of private companies? And do you think they will be into their own self-action? Thank you very much. I'm extremely happy to be with you. And to start fast, I always say, and I'm always proud of the fact that the blockchain system or ecosystem in Turkey is a self-flourishing one. Normally, gigantic tech or data companies owning or holding control of the data have never been able to grow without the support of the government. The support meaning tax relief or providing, favorable climate. So none of them have evolved into this day, opening up the company in a garage. In Turkey, we are not yet there. Actually, there is no magic touch ever done in the blockchain technology in Turkey, but the private sector, individuals, companies for almost a decade have been working on the blockchain. Everyone is trying to make a piece of the cake. Maybe it started off with trade, but as I understand today, and it's been quite rapid, that everyone is thinking as to how they can find their own platform with their own services in this ecosystem. So we're all striving, and really good projects are popping up. In this respect, I'm quite proud of what we've managed to do. And my enterprise is the one that I've started in the States, but it's the Turks that set up the system, although we have different backgrounds as the members of the team from different countries. So the Turkish engineers, I have to say, that are the locomotive of the system. Actually, there is an essence of why we've started the company in the United States to have a direct contact with the global entities. But there are some expectations we have from the government, like cryptocurrency payments are lacking. So we do expect that the legislation is to be corrected or amended in this direction, because at the end of the day, it all started with crypto coin and currencies. It all started off with the financial aspect. So we shouldn't let it go out or just slip out to other, countries. Therefore, in this respect, I understand from identity to NFT collections to marketplaces, many projects currently are being executed through the hand of the private sector, where the public is trying to support quite rapidly with projects as this one. And I always think when internet boomed and that we were quite young, we were not in the vision of having a major entrepreneurship out of that. So we couldn't get a use out of it, like the Facebook or, these big gigantic enterprises. But we could the blockchain, because in a globalized fashion, in a technical background, we have a human capacity. Therefore, I would expect in the next years major companies popping up in this sector. So the unicorn sticker is just being considered as the criterion of value. Should we proceed in that direction, or can there be other parameters, for value other than being unicorn? Thank you. Okay, Mr. Uzun, speaking of all of these, internet has been evolving, as you know, and all the speakers are speaking about Web 1, Web 2. I started off with the word metaverse, as everyone is trying to make a different interpretation of metaverse. And on one side, we're talking about internet, and we're not. And people like me call it Web 3. For Web 3 to be possible, we need an incredible speed. And we need the speed, 5G, 6Gs, we need it desperately. It requires total infrastructure and a well-spread infrastructure for that. I mean, it's not about building wonderful highways with the cars making only 100 kilometers per hour. Where do you think is the direction of the internet? Do you think blockchain will be leading internet in its pace or phase? Do you think we are switching to another phase? Well, in metaverse connected platforms, I'm being asked, is metaverse at the level of birth? No, I say it's already born, and it's just growing up. I mean, the baby is not crawling, but is really flourishing for the moment. So asking the question, I would understand what you mean, as you quite well said. Neither the infrastructure nor data centers are at the competence level that would be required to meet the expectations of the system. So the true metaverse experience, including the photorealistic image and the technology that can reflect your lip movements, including millions of people simultaneously at such a broad scale. I mean, these all are not there yet. It requires optimization technologies in image processing. Wearable technologies are required rather than these slumpy VR goggles. We need really small and really state-of-the-art and feasible gadgets. But the fact is that we're heading there. I mean, we're investing incredibly as a world, and $10 billion worth of an investment was declared, by major companies with additional employment capacity to tens of thousands of individuals. 30 years ago, back in 1992, a World Wide Web concept was emerging. Windows 3.1 was launched in that year. In that time, Snow Crash novel was written, and the word metaverse was used for the first time, and the fiction there with the avatars and NFTs were all there in the book. 30 years ago, internet was just flourishing. Now we are meeting online on internet. Thousands of people are getting online to play games online, 5 billion users in 30 years. Now, metaverse is now crawling. Probably will not take 30 years because things are evolving exponentially with the parameters, evolving so quickly. But I have to say that we are starting off now. The maturity level of the countries is now getting there. EU report on the blockchain forum has been published, and blockchain report provides a matrix of countries, Levant Bey, according to ecosystem maturity levels and their regulation maturity levels. On the right upside corner, the countries are plotted with, UK, Estonia, Switzerland, Malta, and Cyprus. So the only 6 countries both having a technical and legal framework sufficient to catch up with blockchain. So the world is still trying to enhance their ecosystems for blockchain. For ecosystem purposes, I also would like to touch upon to a survey, also comparing Turkey versus that last year in Turkey. This number of startups working on blockchain was about 36, only 36. And it was 800 in the UK, 1,992 in the US, or 900 in the Switzerland. According to the updated report, when I check the numbers now, last year, by the way, Turkey was 26th amongst 43 countries in the world in terms of the number of startups in the ecosystem. But this year, I mean, as of today, there are 12,000 blockchain enterprises or startups. Some work on analytical aspects, some energy, some ID. I mean, in different segments. 12,000 startups are active, and in Turkey, 72 startups, making Turkey rank 23rd from 26 to 23. It's still an evolution, I have to say, from 36 to 72, 97% of an improvement in the number of startups, I have to say, almost doubled. And we're ranking 11th amongst the fastest growing countries. It's good news, but not there yet, because it's more than 5,000 startups now working only in blockchain. In the UK, in the Switzerland, it's almost 1,000. And the unicorns, it's not just indexed to unicorns. No, absolutely not. But in Switzerland, the number, the market value of the companies working in blockchain is equal to our GDP. This year, almost €1 billion. I mean, according to the first quarter report projecting it to the entire year, it's 1 trillion euro of an ecosystem that is being created with the ecosystems of the startups working in blockchain. By the way, 11 unicorns only in Switzerland, because it's the place where Ethereum emerged, Pagano and big projects going there. Why? Because of the climate. It's quite favorable to develop the blockchain system. Climate meaning legal regulations, and the other, the atmosphere, the valley created there for the entrepreneurships, and it's being reflected in all figures. So the expectations and the strive we're running is to also create a favorable climate in Turkey as well. I mean, starting from metaverse, jumping to the climate of the countries, I would guess that has been an answer to your question, although we cannot hear you, sir.
Çok teşekkürler. Tabii ki
Thank you very much.
keyifliydi cevabınız.
It's really a satisfactory reply. And I was planning to ask where the regulation stands there. You already answered my question. Maybe at the end I would get some comments from all panelists. But asking Dr. Çağla, I mean, the central banks were established in the 14th and 15th centuries, and it's the central banks running this financial systems. And you've just referred to a project that was conducted with the central bank, but blockchain is quite autonomous and even bigger than that, autonomous. I mean, without being bound to the center, these are being highlighted. So with the universities, where do you think the relation will be going? I mean, in terms of the centralistic approach, academia is the god of the central system. This centralistic approach being super regulated in the academia. In this atmosphere, do you think you will be able to make your own decisions to head for the future and can produce something that can be used by the private and the public sectors?
Fotoğraf çekeyim ben size.
Well, I think first let's have a snapshot, okay, about academia and at the same time the stakeholders within the very first circle of the academia. But the central authorities, but before discussing about blockchain, I actually would like to use my last words in here. Once we mentioned about regulation, I think there is something so important. And to the person that asking the question, in history of technology, that is from the third industrial era, because as you all know, we are living through the fourth industrial revolution right now. From the third industrial revolution to the fourth, there is no technology that's been regulated so far. Because of the nature of the technology, it cannot be regulated. And if you are going to affect commerce, trade, or personal lives, all the people who are producing the products, delivering the services, the companies, and so on, can be regulated. But once you understand the technology and understand the benefits and risks of the technology, on the top of this, saying that it is decentralized. I mean, for example, at Bilgi University, I'm a professor at the computer sciences department. So for the blockchain technology, therefore, I'm making interpretation over the computer sciences about coding a product and so on. Maybe, okay, some of the protocols are centralized, it's okay, but the decentralized blockchain infrastructure, how we are going to regulate it with the centralized structure is the first question mark that I have in my mind. For the academia, you are right, super centralized institutions. Beyond the regulations, they are also subject to the own rules and culture of that specific institution. I mean, academia is actually not like a physical place. I mean, once you make an academic research, the ideas that you generate in a very super centralized manner. If, for example, it's going to be in the international platform and so on, there are mostly the reviewers that are reviewing your article, and once it is correct, it is published. So, asking the question where the academia is at the blockchain technology. 3 years ago, we started a study. In the faculty, in my university, I actually opened the course for blockchain technology in the computer sciences, and then also at the postgraduate business management and business administration, we started to give the courses. And then I thought to myself, it's okay, we're discussing about this, and during the pandemics, we heard something about NFT, and it's a great area for commerce and so on. But how many universities actually can take these types of courses? We couldn't find any, but now there are too many universities, too many faculties that start discussing about the blockchain technology. Why I'm telling you, it is something positive. At least as for the well-trained graduates that we would like to have, it will be great to raise students that also know about the technology. But more important, so as to break the centralized structure, it is the blockchain technology, and there's also another study in Turkey. Over 30, there is actually a professor sponsoring a blockchain student club with participation of over 30. And I've been contacted with them, and also with the approval of the universities, the students would like to generate ideas, would like to share, and they are now joining international competitions and starting initiatives, startups, and so on. And if you're asking me, because students are the #1 stakeholders in the very first circle, and this is something positive. So, about the relationship between the private sector and the academia, I would like to say I'm also a part of too many projects so far. With, for example, with the sponsorship of the private sector, and a certain scientific institution is saying that I will open up my research lab for you, so I will give you the academic support. So in cooperation, in a collaboration, the private sector and universities started to make projects and generate ideas and make projects. And there are too many blockchain research centers, and it's actually mutual benefit. And we have so many things in place. There are certain associations and platforms working in the field of blockchain in Turkey, and the academicians or the researchers and the private sector are working in collaboration, and they're generating too many reports and publications. Well, I think I will make myself mute. Thank you very much. Great. Now, of course, everything you're saying is so promising, and I hope that all the faculty members at the universities they will continue to remain within the academia, because the demand on the other side is so high that, trust me, it is just like being a faculty at the university is like spending all your time there, because you know the universities are saying either work at the university or outside. So I think this is the sometimes this collaboration is actually blocked from the very beginning. This is just something that I'm saying in parentheses. So, Mustafa, we have so many things at one side, but everyone is telling about blockchain as if it is a piece of engineering work. Sadullah also mentioned vehicles, for example, aircraft. They're too big. It's actually a disaster of technology. I mean, they are just flying 700 people at a single time. But we never consider them as a masterpiece of engineering. Therefore, this collaboration, this cooperation is most of the technology side, the engineering side that we put emphasis on. And once we said private sector, it is putting it into practice, integrating it into the lives of the people. For example, Hassan is the chair of department, and even, for example, it's quite a long, big name, but even once it touches to the people's lives, then it will work. In the daily life and in the work life, it should be much more integrated. At which point we are, do you think we have a system or an ecosystem in place, or is it just the engineering side that we are dealing with? A quotation from Sadullah then this time. Business life is an incubator now. Why? Because
baktığım zaman hani biz de işte bir sürü böyle temas ediyoruz tabii ki birçok
we're
şirketle.
of course in touch with too many companies. People are trying to understand what we can do about blockchain and so on, but especially once we make consultations, it's all about how we can optimize our assets. In other words, how we can raise funds, but that's not the thing. From the technical side, I'm a technical person, I'm a computer engineer, but I think we're a little bit over this. For example, 5 years ago, yes. Sometimes, for example, we get into the state auctions and the tenders, but only 3 companies attended the tender. But now this is not the case. So we have solved the technical side. I mean, in Turkey, we actually have developing houses, or the people are delivering service about the technical side of blockchain, and especially the companies who would like to use blockchain, they're not dealing with the technology side of this. They're much more interested and cannot understand how I can use it. In 2018, the stock exchange Istanbul, we developed a software, a blockchain-based software, and it at that time was a single project at that scale in finance world. And then we delivered the project in May, and for 6 months I joined 90 meetings with 90 different companies. Why? Because I always had in my mind, we did this work at Stock Exchange Istanbul, so we open up the horizon, we'll get too many jobs, and zero. I'm in 90 meetings with too many different companies, but we did not make any deal. This is 2018. And during the meetings, we were first telling them what blockchain is. And then we were analyzing the company and telling them this is what you can do with blockchain. And at the end of the meeting, it is okay, but we're already doing it. And we're already solving this issue with the other technologies that we have in hand, and the meetings were over. But now this is vice versa. It's not us going to the door and knocking the door of the companies, but they're coming to us. And they are saying that we have something in mind, how we can do it with the blockchain technology. This is no more what we can do. This is about how I can do this. I know it's a long answer, but I think we just overstep. And blockchain actually is offering you too many things. I'm not going to get into the details, but it offers you security, the distributed technology that is we can say, saving the data, backup of the data, sharing data with everyone instantaneously. With infrastructure, this is an immediate offer. For example, e-export, we are discussing about e-export. Why e-export is so good for blockchain? Because the product is moving from one country to the other, too much documentation for licensing, sharing the licensing, and so on. And blockchain is actually a great solution for this issue. The only thing that's left is the parties to come together and try to make an agreement. Of course, it is not a magical wand, but I mean, from the corporate side, I've never seen any single blockchain technology. I mean, you need hybrid things. Blockchain, it's okay, it's perfect, important, but still the conventional, I mean, there is a need to establish a hybrid system also with the conventional systems. That is how you can have an almost perfect system in hand. Therefore, It is different for each industry. Too many problems to fix. There are things that you are fixing with conventional things. For example, rather than one person effort, you need 10 people effort. But I think too many things can be replaced with the blockchain. And another additional comment is that it's my own experience that I can say. Of course, I'm a technical person and I've been holding too many different positions, but still, it's not the techniques, it's not the product, not the data itself. So it is community is the king side. I mean, if you have a community, I think I'm confirming what you're saying, whether to be a unicorn or to reach to a certain level of community power. I think this is a distinction that we actually have to make.
Buna ben %100 katılıyorum tabii ki. Yani
With that, I have to say I agree with it 100% because for quite a long time this has been so, particularly for all kinds of communications, because as we discuss all of this, it's being discussed as a matter of technology, like I am a very bad driver, truly. I cannot drive properly with the gear, but I know all the ways in Istanbul. I know where the marketplaces are built, where, when, on which day of the week, and I would drive perfectly within the city. Well, is it about knowing about the roads or knowing the technology or both? I think it's going to be an interesting discussion in terms of the discussion with the academia. Yes, technology is advancing, but data, we're aware of data, but putting a meaning to it, no one is striving. I still think that companies are in need desperately of social psychologists, anthropologists, but since academia is not graduating these people, they are not unfortunately being employed in these places or posts. So where the most pain is, that it would be the starting point. So exports is the starting point. It means that this is the desperate point in need of advancement. Would like to also congratulate people having started off with exports. But one thing to know is the managers between 35 to 50 years in the companies are at stake. They are risky people because at one side, it took them about 15 to 20 years to get where they are. And the people before them also spent another 15 or 20 years to get there. Now they are not aware of the way things are proceeding. And in that respect, they prefer to be, doing it in the old ways. When they say so, there is a new set of behaviors because as they would accept these developments, their own existence would be at stake. So we're speaking about technologic transformation, but it's, yes, true that it's a technology-centered development, but at the same time, a sociological and cultural transformation. Unless we manage to meet the next pillar, I think we cannot meet the first pillar. Doesn't matter how technologic cars you would build, it's really obscure if you have wonderful pilots. So we need to put it on the ground of the society, put meaning to data, in a way, just incorporate it into technology, and also get into the essence of the blockchain technology, how the communities will be using technology, but technology wouldn't suffice in itself. It's just the starting point. We need good menu, and I mean, if you would plan everything from cutlery to the porcelains, the restaurant would be successful. So it's a total transformation from scratch. But a chapter dedicated to exports being a priority, I think is deserving appreciation. So then this brings us to questions, if any. I don't see any. So if somebody who can read the questions would lead me in that way. There is only one question, sir, that we've received. Actually, it would be possible to provide a more detailed answer in writing, but the question is, I'm interested in blockchain. I'm quite excited. Actually, I need to understand more about blockchain technology. I would like to ask about the content of blockchain education at the university is what can be other elements. So the essence of the question is how can we understand that the program at the university is sufficient? Is there any criteria that would show a good quality of this education? What kind of competencies should we have to be working in this field? And quite briefly, would like to say that at the engineering faculty, in my own curriculum, we also have a protocol-based blockchain lecture, consensus mechanisms, technical way of interplay, programming language. But I mean, as also mentioned, there are other levels, other tiers, you know, and the business management departments. It is mostly about reading Bitcoin articles, cyberpunks, activism, the rebellions, and what their contribution to democratic communication would be, how we can use codes in this call for democracy, use case or public fields debate. What we refer to as metaverse is not debated in terms of its software, but rather Camus' way of its reflection in the public domain. So how we can transform it into a culture economy, like in the faculty of communication, we would be referring to different aspects. As said, Professor Levent was quite right saying that there is this lecture. I am also teaching at the Department of Computer Engineering. Every year, we start off with the same sentence. For any engineering product to be successful, it must meet the human needs individually or corporately. So the engineers might sometimes be misled by the thought that the most effective machine is not to be decided by the engineer. The cleanest code is not about the guarantee of an application. It is for this sole reason that I'm also working in venture capital companies. We are always concentrating in the technology ecosystem. Not the unicorns, but good projects always embark at the co-founder level, social scientists, and this should be so because I was at the University for Engineering in 90s, and it was a multidisciplinary approach. It was always social sciences teach approach, and the engineering sciences teach how to get to the result. And at the technology level, these two should be working together. Therefore, all engineering designs should always consider human needs as the first sentence of our lessons. It should be serving the needs of human. So this is my answer to the question. Thank you very much. The first sentences of lessons are quite dangerous, and I remember my times of economy lectures. The first sentence used to say, all human beings are rational. And it's really debatable. So the first sentences are always scary. Well, the engineers, when they hear the human needs, they always are pushed into thinking. This we need to consider as well. As a person coming from the marketing sector, I am not interested in human needs. I am the one who creates human needs, right?
Peki, ben burada araya gireyim çünkü bir soru daha var.
There's
Buyurun.
another question now. I understand that the question is for Gülsüm Hanım.
Yapacak şirketin kimlik konuları nasıl çözüldü?
How have you resolved the ID matters of exports companies? ID data of every company are they taken from a central data bank, entered into the blockchain system? Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. Actually, this is about user management, ID management. Actually, it's a problem in different blockchain technologies. I have to say that since the project is comprised of two phases, in the first phase, stakeholders and the second phase stakeholders are quite different from each other. Now, in the first phase, we were more concentrated in exporters, and there is the Turkish Assembly of Exporters. I have to say that it's a conceptual project, so there is no true integration. Secrets, rights, law, legislation, compliance to the legislation have been our priorities here. Particularly, we have been considering the minimum number of personal data for any institution, and for these institutions to be able to keep their right of even deleting this data. Actually, through the Turkish Exporters Assembly, we approved the ID of the users, have assigned digital signature to them, and we are going to design data creation. In the second phase, as I've already covered at the outset, the work is not over yet, but the design there is rather conducted through the platform to be created by the Ministry of Trade. So in the first aspect, it is important that the exporters are using the Turkish Exporters Assembly to enter their data. In the second portion, our recommendation is to have the Ministry of Trade to proceed with the actions there. And it will be, again, at the discretion of the ministry to guide individuals. And the node structure is actually a structure where we do not support private entities to keep data or the IDs, the protection of personal data. Commercial secrets are our limitations. Therefore, semi-public, semi-private structure would be our recommendation. And once we get feedback from the ministry, we will be sharing with the rest of the people, the Ministry of Trade and Turkish Stock Exchanges Union, so forth, will be included in the process. Thank you. And there's another question, by the way, I would like to make a wording. Actually, when I'm conveying the questions, I'm not uttering names because, this broadcast is being recorded and will later be shared on the YouTube, and it's about the protection of personal rights. Another participant asks, where do techno cities or techno parks sit in this equation? Now, academia, public, private, and what is the role of techno cities in the evolution of this ecosystem? What do you think will be the role of the techno cities in this respect? A brief question, and would like to give the floor to you.
Buyurun. Sayın
Bu soruya Bu soruya ben yanıt vereyim.
Maybe
Müsaade-
I can also address the question.
Teknokentler içerisinde kurulu olan şirketler vasıtasıyla aslında zaten
Actually, there are companies, as you know, that were established in techno-cities, and they are making contribution, but some of the companies are in particular interested in blockchain. In the past, under the auspices of the Ministry of Industry, the IT Valley also participated in the blockchain initiatives, and I think Dr. Çağla was a juror in that process. It's about bringing the ecosystem together and encouraging young people for that. And by the way, there is one point to be noted. Digital transformation office is now encouraging participation in blockchain. And one of the things that I care is blockchain solutions to be developed in e-government issues. This is really important. It's a digital transformation office that has this awareness is really critical. Actually, it's important that they are also pushing people into this awareness. It's really important. And tomorrow there will be a summit at Istanbul University, the Blockchain Summit, where people from the top government levels will be attending. And I'm really curious to see. Actually, starting with blockchain and metaverse and this modest environment or climate to be supported, I think is really, really important. And I've been following those initiatives quite closely.
Başka sorumuz var mı Tayfun Bey?
Do we have any further question?
Sizler cevapları dinlerken ben bir an kopup geri geldim. Hemen arayı kapatıyorum.
I had a bad connection in the meanwhile.
İşleme, onaylama ile kendi
Big data processing
karar verme veya
and approval.
olmayan bir karar alma mekanizması hayatımıza girebilecek mi? Bu gerçek midir sizce? Yoksa ütopik bir
Do you
düşünce
think this is an utopic approach if this kind of a decentralized approach will be in our lives? And how long do you think it'll take for the system to be a part of our lives?
büyük veri işleme, onaylama ve kendi kendine karar
Big data processing, self-authorization, and decentralized decision-making mechanism, do you think is really possible? If you would expect a system to take the decision itself, I think we have a long way to go there because, somebody has to set parameters as to making of the decision. So there is no one in the position of making a decision by himself or herself. And as long as you set the parameters, the machine will make a decision. I mean, like even the dictation control in our mobile phones is the way that you're entering the parameters. It's not the machine, but us that is entering the parameters. So in all cases, I think it will be the human beings in charge of the decision making. If I understand the question right, although I'm not sure if I did, I will give an answer. The question starts with big data, and it's really important to be clear about concepts. We do not refer to big data as always, with the size of the data. It's defined by 3 V's. For a data set to be a big data, diversity, speed, and the speed of transmission. And diversity, is it an article, an image, a video or something, or a volume that is also defined by byte units, megabyte or zettabytes. If you have these 3 characteristics, it's big data. And the question is about self-decision or autonomous mechanisms to manage big data. When you take a look at the blockchain mechanisms, not all of them, but some of them, you can also make some programming. If you have already big data set that is alive, that is going live to make its decision. You need algorithms in the machine or a human being, whatever the parameters are, as to how you want to govern the data. The metrics will be entered into the program. Only then, in an autonomous way, where you would need no further AI or human power, the program will give the management of big data according to your parameters. It's a remote technology, but the question is about timing, but not necessarily a distributed, data.
Yapabilirsiniz. Normal kapalı bir serverda da
And
yapabilirsiniz.
normally you can also run it in a closed server. If I understand the question correctly, it's already a possible technology. How you do it or for which purpose you're running it would change.
Buyurun Mustafa Bey.
Birincisi zaten Çağla Hocam çok güzel özetledi.
As Çağla put it so well, there are already systems in place. I mean, over data, big data, there are decision-making process. It doesn't mean, I think there's an implied question. I think it is about being objective and it must be fair, right? These are our expectations. But Çağla already said, however you teach the data set, this is the way that the machine will make a decision. It doesn't mean that it will be fair and objective at all times. I mean, you also cannot actually argue with the machine. So this is number one. The second thing is that in the field of decentralized autonomic organizations, DAOs, we don't have big data there, but at least I can say we are centralized. I mean, especially like being in governance with full democracy. There are such organizations. I don't know, maybe they actually could be a little bit much more fair. There are too many questions actually, but maybe we can reply them in writing with the feedback from your side, because we're just getting through the end of our webinar. So once again, as the moderator, I would like to ask Mr. Erdem to make his concluding remarks. Thank you very much, Mr. Zaman. Now, first of all, each and every panelist said that it is a must that we have to proceed in the way that we are, but the dates are not so clear. People are making a definition of the timing with the way that they touch an elephant. That's how I understand. I said personally, for example, the very first step, especially, it is the export that takes the first step. This is all about demand. Wherever the demand is higher, that part is actually taking the first step. So it is something so good because they need it more. So they start with blockchain from export. So we're promising. I'm sure that there will be so many good practices, a case that will come out of this process. So on the technology side, therefore, I think we're just doing pretty well from the side of technology. We actually have more well-trained people on the technology side, and there's a raised awareness, and the academia is trying to catch up with this. They're not at best, but they are doing it great. And maybe there is the fear that they'll be taken by the private sector in parentheses, but at least we can actually convince the private sector, and they are now aware of what they have to do, but maybe they are not in peace with what they have to do. So this is quite an interesting transition period that we are going through, in my opinion. But as for end-to-end export, I mean, the design of the end-to-end export process via blockchain technology is going to be a concrete, a sound, and a reliable example, a case for the other regulatory authorities as well, I guess. So personally, I would like to thank to all the panelists and to Hassan and his team. It's a challenging path and good work. It's just like an icebreaker. As the first person, you actually have to embrace the challenges, the difficulties that comes for the first time. You have to go through it, but it's useful for everyone after that. So I would like to actually say thank you and good work to everyone who contributed to the project. Thank you very much, Mr. Elden. Thank you for the distinguished panelists for their time, and to the moderator and all the participants for joining us, our webinar. Very distinguished panelists and attendees, hope to see you in our next webinar.